Good evening. Welcome to Vote America Now Twitter Town Hall, brought to you by Charter Communications. I would like to thank Charter and all of their support and generosity, and Vote America Now for making this possible. My name is Alexi Sampson, and I am proud to be your host. Tonight, we will be answering live tweets from all over the nation with our panel of professionals and answering live questions that are on your mind. The town hall will also be streamed live on the website. You can tweet us your questions using the hashtag MOVE5000. Follow us at Vote America Now. Our panel tonight consists of 3 professionals from political, nonprofit, and business worlds. Each panelist brings their own viewpoints and opinions to your questions. First, we have Chris Perdome. Chris is president of Vote America Now. Tonight, Chris, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Alexi. My name is Chris Perdome. I'm the president of Vote America Now, and certainly want to thank Charter Communications for making this opportunity possible for us. We wanted to make this opportunity for young people to be able to have a voice and be able to engage them in the political process. So we're certainly grateful to be able to start this conversation, and thank you for all the wonderful panelists here as well. Looking forward to a great night.
I am too.
Thank you very much, Chris. Now we're going to our second panelist. Our second panelist is the famous Omarosa. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Go ahead a little bit.
My name is Omarosa Manigault, and I had a wonderful time growing up on Capitol Hill. I worked in the White House. I worked for the DNC as a fundraiser, and I worked on Capitol Hill. Now I think it's very important that we engage millennials and young people into this political process, and we do this exactly what we're doing now, engaging them, meeting them where they are in their medium. And so we're very excited to hear your questions, to respond, and to get this dialogue going.
Thank you so much, Omarosa. And our third panelist is Mr. Ido Benzivi. Mr. Benzivi is the CEO of Highland Fairview, a privately held full-service real estate development company specializing in large-scale industrial, commercial, residential developments. Mr. Benzivi?
Thank you. Good evening. Happy to be here. I think this is a tremendous opportunity to have people get engaged in our process, understand the process better, and be active and understand why it's so fundamentally important that we all do participate in our democratic process in America. It's important for us here, it's important in our local communities, in our nation, and really for the world, because we are the light that has to continue to sparkle and shine in the world today, especially what's going on.
Thank you very much. Now, I think we have our first tweet. Let's see. I would like to go over the format for tonight. We'll be receiving tweets from all over the nation, and we will also answer as many questions as possible that our panelists will be answering as many questions as possible. We'll be receiving tweets from baby boomers to millennials. For those who may not know, millennials are those of us between the age of 17 and 35. Actually, Chris, I believe, that includes you.
Right.
You focus quite a lot on millennials. What's your primary goal in reaching out to millennials?
Our primary focus in reaching out to millennials is to really have them ultimately get engaged in the process. We want them to have, I guess you can say us, an exciting, fun time. We want the voting and the civic process as a whole to become exciting, to become enthusiastic. Our ultimate goal is to get them to actually, of course, be at the polls, and not just voting, but to truly make a difference in day-to-day life and day-to-day society. Ultimately, that's what we want to do.
Thank you, Chris. The millennials represent a large block of potential voters for next year's elections. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Now let's get started. I'll be reading the tweets and giving our panelists a chance to answer Twitter questions. Our first tweet comes from Randall in Phoenix. student loan debt is out of control. I'll be 80 by the time they're paid. What are the other options for funding higher education? Chris?
Well, thank you for that question, Randall in Phoenix. Student loan, of course, is always an interesting issue in politics. I think obviously people want to go to school to get a better education, to get a better future and a better job. Ultimately, that's what it's about. There's numerous ways. You can obviously go to college and get a great education. There's student loans, of course. There's scholarships, and of course, there's self-financing. So it's one of those challenging subjects. That's always ever changing. And of course, America is in a tough situation right now. So you have to look at the various issues with education, the economy, and see how we're able to work things out. I'm not an expert on student loans, so I don't have an exact descriptive answer for that. But I would just say, as a student, for young people to continuously pursue your dreams, pursue your educational goals, and don't stop. You can do anything you want to do in life, and you can truly make a difference. If there's a will, there's a way.
Thank you, Chris.
Certainly.
Omarosa?
Well, having 3 degrees and being in grad school for what I feel like is forever. If you're watching this at home and you're a young person who has debt, the good news is that Barack Obama has promoted all of these incredible debt forgiveness policies that will allow you to pay back your loans in a reasonable amount of time. Prior to that, you'd be paying for 20, 30 years and not really seeing a return on your investment. The other thing is there are many employers who will allow you to get debt forgiveness in your employment. So you may want to look for job opportunities that will also forgive your loans. And the other thing is you can always serve. I mean, the great thing about being in the military that I see is that the government really helps to fund your education, and there's some forgiveness options as well. So not to fret. There are new policies that are on the horizon that will help you not only get that education, but also not be in debt for the rest of your life.
Thank you. Mr. Benzivi?
Yeah, so what Omarosa said, and of course Chris, exactly to the point, but I look at it from a different perspective, is at the end of the day what we really have to do in America is create jobs. So when you do go to college, however your level of debt is, you should be able to get the kind of job that will pay you enough to pay your debt, make a good living, and progress in life. So I'm really focused on providing the opportunity. You worked hard, you went to school, you studied, you graduated, you have the skills to contribute to our economy, to our society, to our country, and we should be able to provide you with the opportunity for a real job that pays real wages, that enables you to move forward in life. So all of these things are part of the equation of getting the student loans addressed in America. You can give all the benefits in the world you can, but at the end of the day, you need to have a job that's a good job waiting for you with the right opportunities.
I get it. I'm a millennial, and I have more friends now, that are out of college and unemployed, so I get it. Jobs are the most important thing.
And let me just say to that point, to everybody out there, there's some misnomer in America about jobs. Literally, if you look out in the world, in America today, there's about 9 to 10 million jobs that are unfilled. And that's because we have a huge mismatch between jobs and skills. People are able to take on those jobs. So part of the big challenge in industry for us is to find people with the right skills. So education is perhaps more fundamentally important today than any other time in history.
But it's interesting listening to the candidates talk about job creation, who can actually create jobs. When millennials are thinking about jobs, they're not really thinking about careers. They're thinking about what's going to pay my credit card off right now. We need employers that will have opportunities that provide a lifelong, a support, a system that they understand and that they can be engaged in. So job creation is one of the top priorities for this presidential election.
Okay, next tweet. Chris, when voting, I don't even know how to vote. I vote for my president candidate and then guess on the rest. How can I educate myself? Can you answer that tweet?
Absolutely, absolutely.
It sounded like you were saying that. I was like, you gotta vote.
But there's various voter guides and different opportunities that people can look into to obviously understand more about the political process. I think one of the most complicated things about it, and even for myself, voting, you look at the initiatives, the propositions, and they're quite lengthy and they can be confusing. Aside from the normal presidency candidate or gubernatorial candidate, it can get complicated. So the best thing I would say is do the research. There's plenty of voter guides out there. Vote America Now. We are looking to actually produce a voter guide for millennials in the upcoming election.
Okay, Omarosa, how would you answer that?
You know, I learned how to vote through my student government. So I was always engaged in high school and junior high school and running for one of those offices. But if you've missed that opportunity, there is still hope. You have to vote your interest. That means what issues affect your life right now? We were just talking about jobs and education. Clearly that affects millennials. But there are some policies that affect technology. So you're worried about your internet and your Wi-Fi. But you have to understand what's affecting my life and then educate yourself on those issues. Those are the priority issues. And then after that, there are wonderful guides out there for millennials so that they know where to vote, and how to get engaged in the process. The best thing to think about is to do this in a friend environment. You know, teamwork makes the dream work. If you are interested in getting engaged, why not get your buddies to be a part of it, and then you all can make a difference in your community.
That was really good. Good stuff.
Thanks.
Mr. Benzivi?
Well, of course, in today's age where all the information is literally at your fingertips, we can Google anything. You can find anything in the world literally in a second. So it's a good place to start. They say how to vote. I'm sure if you put in how to vote into Google, you'll get 10,000 answers, and then your job is to sort through some of those. But start with your local community. If you're in school, student government. If you are past school, look at the community you live in. Who is your councilman? Is there a city hall? Are there political active people out there that are doing different things, volunteering to some things, and very quickly you'll get engaged in with people that are involved, and it'll take you from there. It won't be that difficult.
I agree.
Okay, we have our third tweet. Millennials feel like they can't trust politicians. Do you have any ideas how politicians can regain their trust? Omarosa, why don't you start?
It's funny you're starting with me. My former boss is running for president. And so he has some very extreme views, Donald Trump, on certain issues. The reason why people like him is they feel like he's authentic, that he tells it like it is, and he's straightforward, and he's unorthodox as a candidate. I believe that more candidates need not to have these canned speeches and repeat the same things that have been said over and over again, that they have to have a clear vision of how they're going to lead this country out of debt into safety. And so we need candidates who keep it real. I mean, that's how you regain the trust of millennials. You have to keep it real.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really a little bit tired of seeing, the canned speeches and, this whole kind of thing. I would like to see more, like you said, authenticity in our candidates.
And when Donald Trump starts tweeting, 3.2 million Twitter followers hang on his every word. So he's connecting with millennials through the medium that they favor the most. That's Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Benzivi?
I concur with what Omarosa says. At the end of the day, if you're authentic, if you have real beliefs, unfortunately, we've become a society we have professional politicians. People have it as a career for their entire life. Their entire existence and experience is politics. They literally haven't done anything else. And so, as a career, you want to make sure you stay in office. And to stay in office, you have to please everybody, which is impossible. So you end up creating positions. I call it being, obscure clearly. You hear the stuff they say, and you say, wait a minute, I understand English, but what did they say? So that's part of the problem. Those who speak straight, you may agree with them or not, but at least if you do, they have real supporters, and things can move forward. But sometimes you're agreeing with people and you say, exactly what did they say? Or what does it mean? It's sort of being obscure clearly, which is not really where we need to be. So authentic communication, authentic ideas, whether it's in business or in politics, always rule the day. And I hope more and more people will, in politics especially, end up there.
Yeah.
And Chris, you're a millennial. What do you think?
It is actually honestly an interesting question. I have thoughts on both sides. Working with both groups, politicians and young people. I'll give you a straightforward answer. Elections are about winning in terms of the candidate's eyes, of course, aside from their values and ideologies. And so they tend to go with the high propensity voters, and young people are just not that in most cases in history. The flip side of that is I think they can do a better job with being more interactive, more engaging, like you said, less canned speeches, more enthusiastic, more fun. I think we have to make the civic process itself more enthusiastic. And at the end of the day, it's not just about the election itself. It's young people getting involved, showing up at congressional hearings, showing up at various city council meetings where local politics is always, as they say, the best politics. That's what affects you the most, I should say.
I agree. Like I said, I'm a millennial, and I definitely believe in getting people energized and coming out. So I definitely agree with what you have to say. We have our next tweet. Why should I be engaged in voting when I feel like there's a huge disconnect between candidates and my age group?
Well, just by virtue of the legal age of running for president, of course, there's going to be a difference. But I think the good news is that the candidates recognize that without the millennials, they can't be effective and they can't be successful. So they need you. They need you engaged. They need you to be out there on the trail. They need your feedback. They want to hear from millennials. And so when a candidate needs you, just like you said, they're going to do and court you and say whatever they need to say. But it's your responsibility to be informed, to know what you're asking for, and to set an agenda that they have to be accountable to. And so yes, there's a big gap, but they need you. And so take advantage of that and leverage the issues that are important to millennials. Make your demands and make sure the candidates meet them.
How do you make the politicians listen to you, though?
Easy. Show up.
That's right.
Every vote counts. So you show up, and they will recognize that there's power in numbers. Mm-hmm. If you're organized, if you mobilize, you can make a difference, and they will listen to every single word that you say.
Mr. Benzivi, any thoughts?
Yeah, in a broad sense, be a light, get involved, say what you feel, people will respond to you. At the end of the day, all the darkness in the world cannot put out one candle, but one candle can put away all the darkness. So be a light, come out, get involved, and people will respond to you if you're there. If you don't vote, if you don't participate, it's as though you don't exist. And the politicians, their currency is voters. That's how they get elected, right? So you are very valuable to them. Mm-hmm. And the more people get involved, I could tell you one thing, if there was 5-10 million millennials who decided to go out and vote, there will be a millennial candidate.
Well, that's what
Right?
happened with Barack Obama.
Absolutely.
I mean, millennials turned out in record numbers, and they made the difference in that election. And so you see that these candidates are now paying attention. They're
Right.
looking at the data from those early elections, and they know that they have to be effective in that area.
Chris, your focus has been millennials, so what do you think?
I think at the end of the day, I think what Omarosa said, Anita, is phenomenal. At the end of the day, I believe the only way you can really make change and to close that disconnect is to do something about it. Mm-hmm. I think as long as there's no one driving on the freeway, there's no one driving on the freeway. So I think once one car gets on, a second gets on, someone has to be the leader and says, okay, you know what, we're going to start making this difference. And if you could change one person in a city, you can change one person in a county, and change in a state, and change in a federal. But it starts with that one person. That one person is you, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so forth. So I think at the end of the day, young people have to start taking a stand one by one. We cannot wait on an Alexi or a Omarosa or Ito or myself. We have to do it for ourselves and say we're going to make decisions our own selves, and we are going to be involved in the process until we have that mind frame collectively. That's really the reason, that's really, I think, the most effective way to change is doing it and making it happen.
But even to win a lottery, you have to buy a ticket, right? So you may not, if you participate, you don't necessarily get your candidate or the policies you really advocate for or believe in or want happen, but if you don't participate, right?
Right.
Not everybody who starts finish, But if you don't start, I can guarantee you one thing, right? You can't guarantee if you start that you will finish, but you got to get involved. And the more people get involved, definitely an outcome, right? That
Certainly agree.
yeah.
Right. You can't win if you don't play, right?
That's right.
Our next tweet is up. Voting seems like a drag with electoral college in place. Why is it so important? So,
I'm sad to see a tweet like this.
Right.
With somebody asking why is voting still important. It is the single most important exercise that any individual in a democracy can do. It is the individual gesture that says that I still believe in this union, this country, of this place, of this idea, one nation under God. That gesture of voting is so profoundly important that I can't stress to you how important it is. No matter who you vote for, the act of voting shows that you believe in this country and what it stands for.
but how do people, millennials, get involved, especially when you have an electoral college where you feel like your vote doesn't count if you're like coming from a red state and you're a Democrat, you know, or you're coming
Let's
from a
not
blue state?
forget that George W. Bush, his votes came down to literally 100, 200 votes in some counties that made the difference. Let's not forget that even in a system with the Electoral College, that each individual vote profoundly matters, and it truly does count. History reflects that.
Absolutely. I feel like, you know, and I try to explain that to some of my friends, you know, about voting and going out there. But what would, Chris, like you said, you deal with millennials.
Sure.
How do you tell them, you know, their vote counts when you have something like the Electoral College in place?
Well, at the end of the day, the Electoral College is really supposed to be based off of the electors. Obviously, look at the demographics and say and they look at the percentages of who's providing for that candidate. But also, to this person that's tweeting in, let me also say this: it's not so much just about the Electoral College. I think that's one of the biggest things. I'm actually glad that question came in now. I think that's one of the biggest things that people have misconstrued, is that it's not just about federal or national politics. Some of the largest issues take place locally. I've seen things locally in my hometown in the last few years. It's just been amazing, the changes that can take place. I mean, that's where most of they say all politics is local. And I think it's so important not just to look at presidential elections, but to look at your city council, to look at, I mean, it affects everything from projects being developed, schools being built. And I think it is so crucial to get engaged and get involved locally in your community. That's where it starts.
It's more than just important. What happens is, and the reason we get that kind of a question is, there's sort of this learned helplessness. There's some interests who would like you to think that your vote doesn't count, so their vote is the only one that ends up being counted, right? So if you're not there, you never count, nobody counts your vote, and you don't count, right? So the more people get involved, look, we're a nation of 300 million plus people. So at most, we have one vote. We're always going to be 1 over 300 million. But in the aggregate, right, we make a big voice. So if enough of us participate, you see big changes. And that's what we need to do. It's your vote. It isn't just that one vote that's going to change the whole nation. Like sometimes elections do. I've seen elections come down to, on local levels, to 3 votes, 5 votes. So it isn't just that 5 people made a difference. But over time, the more you participate, remember, there's not just one election. The beauty of the process is we don't elect a president for the rest of our life. It's not like a pope. You elect a pope, and for the rest of our life, we made that decision. You know, elections come. In a lot of local communities, every 2 years there's elections. There's elections literally on a lot of levels. The more you participate over time, your vote isn't a one-time vote. It's over and over again over your lifetime, and you're going to make a change.
And I saw that so profoundly when I ran for school board. I got a bright idea, actually, of running for school board in Los Angeles, which is the second largest school board in the nation. And you see how politics affects you at the most intimate level. We're talking about your children. We're talking about their education. We're talking about their schools, their libraries, their sports. And so I wish that there were more people, more young people like yourself, who were engaged, who were involved, who cared enough to know that their vote would make a difference in the lives of young people.
I agree with you, Omarosa. I did witness you running for school board. I was enthralled. And yeah, you know, I think millennials just don't catch that politics touches every aspect of your life. And we actually have our next tweet here. And what's on the mind is, can politicians make more good jobs happen? So we're back to jobs. Chris,
Everything, it's all about jobs.
An exciting subject, boy.
everybody wants to make money.
You know, I don't think politicians can make good jobs happen. I think they can help in how it works. But I'll say this: I'm one for entrepreneurship, and having spent a lot of time around our panelists here, and I can tell you that's so much of a fun, exciting question. At the end of the day, I think it's about an individual making a job happen. We have to get out the mindset of someone else making it happen and making it happen for ourselves. I'm one for people to go out and truly make a difference in their lives and create something, develop something. I think we're in that age and in that time where you can make a difference and you can develop your own opportunity. But to say a politician can get a better job, I think people should go out and make better things happen for themselves and have a mentality and a mindset of success and a mindset of I can do it attitude and let it affect someone else. But I'm so excited to hear Omarosa's and Ido's answer on that especially.
Ido.
That's his
Well,
specialty.
Yeah.
first of all, politicians make it their job. So, you know, you can run for office, they get pretty good benefits, and
Absolutely.
actually they get, you know, they make rules and policy for all of us to follow, but sometimes they make their own special rules for themselves. They do pretty well. So but that's an aside. Look, the best thing government could do in a sense, and politicians do, is step out of the way and let business,
Right.
individuals, entrepreneurs, do what they know how to do best, and that is create opportunities, create jobs in America. Government, outside of government jobs, has really never created jobs, right? Government can be a consumer sometimes, right? So they have needs, and so entrepreneurs or the private sector can fulfill those needs and create more jobs. So policy is important, but at the end of the day, most jobs in America were created by individuals, like all of us, that whether they started out as a kid selling, lemonade, or mowed the lawn for someone, or helped someone, or tutored. These are entrepreneurs, and we need to encourage a lot more of that, because we all know, and history has shown itself, that no one creates better jobs than individuals and people that have the freedom, right? Mm-hmm. And rules that enables them to do what they do best. And that's what we need to do in America. Get government out of trying to create jobs, because they haven't really shown throughout the history that they can. But good policy enables entrepreneurs and individuals, you know, create jobs. And that's what we need to do more in America.
Well, this is the first time I'm going to disagree with Ido. I believe that when you talk about politicians, one of the issues that are most important to me in this election is a fair wage, and as well as equal pay for women. So in terms of fair wage, raising the minimum wage will stimulate the economy, will stimulate job growth, will get more people into the workforce. And so yes, politicians can play a direct role in how many jobs are created and how many people are back in the workforce and how many people are motivated to get out. Raise the minimum wage, that's number one. Number two, equal pay for women. You and I can sit here and talk about the difference between how much you would be paid and how much I would be paid for the same job, with the same level of education and the same level of experience. Those are two areas that politicians can affect directly, and they can do that through effective policy.
I'm talking listen, wages and equality are fundamental. And that is the role of government, to be in that space. But we can agree that everybody should be paid $1 million, but we need a job that pays $1 million.
As soon as this argument comes, and then these business owners throw out these bombastic figures.
Wow.
No one's asking for $1 million. they are asking for enough money to fill their
No,
prescriptions
I
and
agree.
fill their gas tanks.
And they need,
And
and
these
they
are
need
issues
more,
that are very important
yeah.
to families.
I think we need more than that. We need
Yeah,
more than
but we
just
need
getting
at least
somebody.
the minimum
Chris,
addressed.
what do you think about
Well,
that?
we need before the minimum. We need a job for somebody to be able to do to get that
Well,
wage.
that's where you come in. You said, let's take government out of it. That's not the
No,
that's not
the
the
question
approach.
was, do government create jobs? Government
Can
can.
politicians create good? Look,
No,
now,
no,
now
no,
we're
no,
fighting.
Chris, no. This is phenomenal. This is exactly what we want. This is phenomenal. I will say this: in order for us to continue to get more jobs, we have to allow for economic freedom.
Oh, you go out in left field with economic freedom.
Well,
You know what
I'm
a freedom
not-
is? Being able to feed your children, being
Okay,
able to
oh.
pay your bills, being able to really address the issues that are in your household.
Right.
Not broad economic policies. I'm talking about
what-
household issues.
But what happens if we hurt, if we hurt the pockets of businessmen?
Oh, here we go. See, the truth comes out now.
No.
Chris is for
When I
big
say that, no.
business, and I'm for the little
When I
man.
say that, no, I mean, look, no. Look,
Let him finish on
when I
those,
say
let
this,
him finish.
when I say hurt the pockets of corporate America, there's so much that they can do and that they do in the community. Look at Charter. Look what Charter's doing for us. So we don't want to limit. Look, the reality is this. Let's say we go from $9 an hour to $15 an hour. Most people just look at that $6 difference and say, oh, that's just it. It's bigger than that. There's health care, there's workers' compensation.
Of course,
you know,
and those are things
obviously
that people
know-
need. People need
Yeah,
to be able
it-
to go to the hospital, go to doctor's appointments, and fill prescriptions. I know that that seems like something big to ask, but for most
No, it's
families,
actually not.
these are things that they should have at the minimum.
I agree with you. Everybody should have health care. They should have a living wage. They should have education even. Okay,
So
there's a
we
free
do
fundamental.
agree, Ido.
We absolutely agree on that. What I do want to say, because otherwise it's a panacea, and that is that at the end of the day, right, the only thing and the source of the resources to pay people is if we create jobs. So we can say we like to pay everybody a decent wage, and I think it helps everybody, it helps the economy. If everybody has enough money to feed their family and be able to participate in the economy, actually buy something, take services, watch television, whatever they're doing, that helps everybody. But we need, again, I want to focus on where government can be helpful, and that is do everything they can to create opportunities where we can create more jobs in America, jobs for everybody, because let me tell you, the best public program you can ever create is a job. You can help a lot of people with a lot of things, but the best thing you can ever do for someone, give them a real job, a decent job
I
that
just
pays a
worry
decent
this
wage.
abstract talk
Okay,
of creating
this is-
jobs does not get down to the real bare bones of the issues.
But what about
there
the,
are
but what about
families
the
that are
issues of
struggling,
people
Chris.
who, but what about people who are on
In our-
welfare for years and
guys.
years?
The millennials want
It's-
to know
it's
because
designed-
Hold on.
Alexi
You know what?
said,
Let's take
Alexi
turns.
said, I have friends who graduated from 4 years of college and they can't get a job. You all are talking in these abstract terms, create jobs, create jobs. These are bright young people, educated, armed and ready to go, and they can't find
Right,
jobs.
and I tell you why that is.
Why is that?
As like I said, we have jobs. There's a big mismatch between the skills and the jobs.
So what do we need to work for you?
So I think where government can play a role, and
So let's-
and it's an important role because all of us benefit tremendously from the freedoms and everything we have in America, and that comes from government. We're there to support government. We're talking about how to get people involved and get better. So what can we do? Right? The question is, what can we do? Education, understanding where jobs are, right? What the needs are going to be. Millennials, very important for them. What should I study, right? What should I study, right? So I can get into a profession that will end up providing me a good living or a decent living. I mean, things are changing. Think about this. It used to be in America where there's a big shift in the world. It's shifting from manual skills to technology skills. What does that mean? Just a few years ago, you're way too young for this, but the only way to listen to music, the only way to listen to music was to drive to some record store, you know, park your car, look for the record, go to a cashier, pay for it, drive back home, put it in a machine, listen to music. Now we have iTunes, right? We select the music, pay for the music, listen to it instantaneously. What has happened? Every town in America had a record store. Young people were working there, and somebody said, look, I don't want to get higher education. I can get a decent job. I'm a good guy or good girl or good woman. I'll go and work in the store, and then I'll get promoted to be assistant manager, and then I'll be a manager, and then I'll be a regional manager, and then I'll go up the ladder in corporate America. And lots of people had jobs like that. Today, even if you say, I want to work for free in a record store, it doesn't exist. Okay? The jobs are changing.
Right.
So what happens, a lot of people have the skills for an economy that's changing. It used to be the only way to watch a movie is drive to some video store, get the movie, drive home, put it in a machine, watch the movie. Now the job, it's not that people are not buying music, but instead of a person selling to you over a counter, it's somebody sitting in iTunes behind some technology. So the skill has changed. They're still selling you music, but if your skill is a retail, and the job that exists now in music is behind some technology, right? So the skills are changing, the demands are changing, and that's the challenge we have in America. We have a big
Let
mismatch.
me
What?
get Chris
I'm
in
good
here,
at
Mr.
shopping.
Benzine. So let me get Chris in here. Chris, isn't it true though, as wages go up, the cost of burgers and fries and gas go up, and all
Absolutely.
that comes from our pockets, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
There, he's
Yeah,
a big business guy. You can't fight with this guy.
No, I mean,
He's advocating for the Giants.
no,
We're
not at all.
advocating for the-
I'm just giving both. I'm giving a
But when
real
you start
perspective.
saying,
I'm giving
I
a-
love that
Let's
you
get
use
to-
Charter as an example because they're exceptional.
Absolutely.
The benefits that they provide, the opportunities that
Absolutely.
they provide, and as a whole, it's a work environment that's conducive
Absolutely. And look what
But
they do in
not-
the community.
in the community. But not all companies are like that.
You're absolutely right.
Which is where government comes in, where they have to make sure and sometimes force the hand of these big businesses to do right by people.
But why should government be babysitters?
Oh, can you believe this?
Okay.
Let's-
Let's
let's-
agree
let's hear
to
what
one
Lex
thing
has to
because
say.
people want some real answers. The thing is, we need to have laws and policies in place to enable everybody to have a job, a decent job, a living wage,
Yes.
healthcare, education,
Yes.
everything they need to be productive
Right.
You're
and have a
preaching.
decent living. Okay?
I'm with him all day.
But again, to help an individual, the best help, where it starts, the best thing we can do is create a job. Once we have a job, we can talk about the wages, how much they should be paid, the healthcare, the benefits, everything down the road. But we have to start with creating the job.
Okay,
Otherwise,
okay.
Jobs.
exactly.
You sound
Jobs.
You guys are very
sound
passionate
like-
about this, I can see.
Right.
We
Thank
have
you for the
tons of
question.
tweets. We have tons of tweets, so let's get to the next one. How does a presidential candidate win a vote of a millennial? Chris?
Jobs.
Right,
Jobs.
yes, it is jobs.
That is really the answer. In the short, because I want to get through obviously a lot of these tweets. The short form is this: I think they have to connect with millennials. They have to show a sense of care, a sense of urgency to understand what millennials are going through, not just large money and large movement and political power. It's about really understanding what millennials' issues really are. Obviously, student loans is a big issue from what I'm always hearing being out with Vote America. Jobs, of course, not to be funny, is of course a real. I mean, just really. If I ask 10 people, if we go outside right now and ask 10 millennials, what are your 3 issues? I can guarantee you, jobs and student loans are going to be on the top of that list.
My
Absolutely.
nephew is in here, my millennial. I brought him as my focus group, and he would say the same thing. You're right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But you know what's important for me, for politicians connecting with millennials? As a woman, reproductive right for women.
Absolutely.
A
I would
women's
agree.
right to do what they want to do with their bodies. If you want to connect to millennials, start focusing on reproductive rights for women, and you will get their attention.
I agree, but I think it goes a full circle to what you said first.
Please.
And that is be authentic. Millennials want to hear what's real.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me what it is.
Correct.
Tell me something I can understand, and then I'll tell you if you get my vote or not. Be real, and that's part of the problem. They're not connecting because they're talking about stuff obscure. What does it all mean?
Well, I'll
what does
tell
it
you,
mean for me?
Donald is connecting.
No, Donald is
I
connecting
mean,
because I
he's
think he's
connecting in a big way.
so.
He tweets his thoughts.
But
I
connecting.
think
But there's a difference between connecting and actually making something happen.
What are you talking about? He's 26%
I'm
in the
I'm
polls,
not saying he's
dominating
not-
for the
is-
last 4
I'm
months.
just saying there's a difference between
and
connecting
going
and making
into the
things happen.
fall
Not
with
saying he's not.
momentum that will not be stopped. He's using social media.
He
That's
is.
what he's doing
It-
right.
it doesn't-
And listen, he's packing out these auditoriums, football fields. People want to see change. They want somebody who's strong and forceful and who will fight for them.
But that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
People talk about change, but change into what? And so here's the thing. Let's be real. Priorities. Nobody's articulating. Look, I say you want to change, you want good wages. Think about it. I used to go to Washington on a variety of business matters. And every time I was there before the big economic collapse of a few years ago, you go out there and there's no money for education. We're in deficits. Deficits. We don't have any money for anything. And then the economic collapse happened. And in 3 hours on a Saturday, they found $1 trillion to bail everybody out. So I went back and said, where was all that money? I mean, if the government doesn't know where $1 trillion, and they found $1 trillion in 3 hours on a Saturday. Same thing is, before 9/11, which was an awful thing, we're in deficit, no money for education, no money to fix our roads, no money for student loan,
always money
no
for
money.
defense.
Well, all of a sudden, we have found $3 trillion to go to war.
Yeah.
Where was the money? I mean, somebody
There's
should get
always
fired
going
for
to be
auditor,
money
for
for
the
defense.
government auditors, the account. We didn't know they collected so much money in taxes, $3 trillion that nobody knew about. They couldn't give student loans. They couldn't do anything. So here's the point. We need people to start talking real to millennials.
You're right.
They understand, wait a minute. They may have not sat down and figured it all out and thought it through. They're busy with their life. They're busy with their education. They're busy with making a living. But they need people to tell them, wait a minute, where did you find $1 trillion to bail, right, the banking industry or to bail out General Motors? And you could not find a lot less than that, a fraction of that, to help out with student loans.
Aren't you excited that
I
there's
agree.
a momentum going into 2016? Don't you feel that there's
Absolutely.
a different momentum? 24 million people tuned into the Republican primary debate.
That's right.
That is unprecedented, never
Right.
heard of. That means that people who have never been engaged in the process before are now there, interested and ready to go.
Right.
Well, talking about social media, we have our next tweet here, and their tweeter says, "Can social media help millennials get into the political process more like Egypt?" Chris, you want to go ahead and take that one?
Absolutely. I think social media can certainly make a difference. I would like to see more elected officials and civic leaders get involved in social media. It's amazing the impact that social media has. As we know, a lot of celebrities use social media every day, and it works well for them. I think if we, well, first of all, I'll say this, it's a very fast way of spreading something. And I think for getting millennials together, I think social media is a great platform. For one, for seeing what's hot and what's engaged. And let's really face it, young people, millennials don't watch CNN, don't watch Fox News. So I think it's a great way to pass information along and for them to get engaged and get involved in the process. And of course, it's a good way to measure who likes who. Let's face it, I mean, if you have 8 million followers and somebody else has 2, well, they might like you more than they like the 2 million.
I hate to admit that underneath my leg is my phone because I'm so connected to my social media. You can always know what's happening. And even as we're doing this live town hall, I love seeing all of your comments and seeing the feedback and knowing that we are reaching people right now. I'm at Omarosa, by the way, on Twitter. Little station break here. But no, I think the great thing is that you can get engaged because with hashtag advocacy, you know this is the issue that's important today at this moment with young people. I can click on that hashtag and find out what the pulse of young people is right now. And you can educate yourself on what that issue is and then move on to the next one. It's a great way of engaging, educating, and mobilizing millennials. And I'm going to put my phone back under my bag.
To keep it warm. By the way, this place is freezing. I don't know if
It
you-
is
if-
very
if-
cold in
I
here.
just think okay.
Mr. Benlevy, do you have social media?
Do I have
you on
social?
Twitter?
Well, I can sit on mine too. But
I'm gonna follow you.
The real issue is that social media. This is the new platform of how we communicate. You know, we used to send smoke signals, and then we had all kinds of other, and we found the printing press, and we had. Today, we have electronic media, and it's social media. That's how we communicate. I don't think it's just a preview of millennials. It's everybody. The President of the United States has social media. So
Right.
the reality is that this is a platform. It's 2015. That's how we communicate. And that's what everybody should use. It's like a way to reach out, talk,
Right.
communicate. But here's the thing with social media. We've got to the point where we say something in 2.5 words or less,
Right.
and the next second we're on to the next issue.
Oh,
And
that's the nature.
the nature of it. So we need to find a way also to communicate, not just through this media, but like you said, Donald Trump has done it in a few areas, others have done it, is focus on an issue that's clearly understood, clearly defined, and then communicate on it. A lot of the communication is communication for the sake of communication, and you get all kinds of stuff that, I don't know if it really helps you to know, and some things I rather not know, but the point is use it, but use it effectively, make a point.
Well,
Right. I
like
agree.
Omarosa said, I live on my social media as well. So
What's
you
yours
know,
so I can
being
follow? It is a live
Alexi-
Twitter townhouse.
Alexi137.
Okay.
Yes. But yeah, as a millennial, I live on social media, and like Chris was saying, I don't turn on CNN or Fox News. I'm
see.
going to see what is going on. If I want to know what's going on in Egypt, like our Twitter said, I'm going to hit up Twitter or hit up Instagram. So I think it's very important. And as Chris knows, as a millennial, that's the best way to almost reach me sometimes is through social media. So.
And that's why I think it's so great that we are blessed to do this with Charter, and I think Charter gets it. They're wonderful people, wonderful operations, wonderful government affairs, and they understand the value of social media. Imagine something like this again and again and again throughout the election season, and of course continuously ongoing. Imagine the effect that something like this can happen across the nation, colleges, universities everywhere. This is where it starts, and I'm fortunate that we're able to have this
your
conversation and
picture?
start this right now.
Oh my gosh, she is the
How
cutest
much-
picture
how
on
much
her
are you-
social media.
How much are you using social media in Vote America now?
We are. We just started really kind of revving up with social media. To answer your question, quite a bit. We're using it now. So this is kind of the first step for us in making a big difference with social media. I think it's phenomenal.
But can I caution you? Let's remember you can't cast one vote on social media. So
You're
as
right.
important as it is, we have to also get our young people to go to the polls and actually cast that vote.
You're right.
So as we emphasize the importance of social media, we have to also emphasize the importance of actually exercising
You're
the right to
absolutely right.
vote.
At the end of the day, that's what matters: is casting that ballot and making a difference. That is the difference.
That's why it's called Move 5000.
Look at you. There you go.
So kind of piggybacking on that, social media is everywhere, as we've already stated.
Certainly.
How big do you think it will be in this next election?
Major.
Yeah, huge.
And why do you think that?
It's setting. I mean, Donald Trump can. I'm sorry to keep using Donald Trump, but that is my boss.
Excuse
You
me.
wake
It's
up
probably
one
for all these
morning.
other people running.
You wake up one morning and your former boss is like running for president. It's kind of crazy, right? But I use him as an example. He can tweet something, and it's the headline around the world for the entire news cycle. One tweet has that profound of an impact. One image on social media can go viral within 10 seconds. It is incredible. It is powerful.
Amazing.
And so knowing how to harness that power
Right.
to make sure
Right.
that your campaign is the successful one,
Right.
that's the role you're going to see. And that's really the strategy that politicians have to figure out.
Yeah, and that's why Donald is doing well, because at the end of the day, we have a attention span, and you need to keep, right? It's entertainment almost.
Right.
And what happens is, if you're not entertaining, it's like we have 500 channels and sometimes nothing to watch, because people will flip through 100 channels and look at 30 seconds. If you don't catch somebody in 30 seconds, you lose them, right?
Right.
So social media, people know how to use it well. They're engaging. They're putting out stuff that people want to hear. It's in short bits, and here comes the next thing, and you keep it live and fresh. But there's also a danger. It becomes a phenomenon where you're looking almost at the entertainment value and the reaction, and not anymore to the core issues and what actually something means. And we have sometimes a danger that we follow, right, what is the latest fashion as compared to really sitting down and thinking, what does it really mean? And here's the key. When you do vote, it means something. It is not social media. It is not what's happening this minute or tomorrow. It can affect your life. So get all the information you can from social media, use it as a tool or receive the information, but then actually take some time and think it through. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to people around, research, understand what it all means, And don't just look at it as sort of this flow of information is going through, and actually sit down for a minute and slow it down a little bit, understand what it is, because those things like the policies and issues you talk about, women's rights, this is not something you can tweet and it's done and America has
Right.
changed.
Right, that's
You
a
got to
good point.
understand
That's a good point.
what are you actually going to support, and it doesn't come out in tweet. It's come out, right? It can inform you, but then go research, do the work, understand what it is, and then use the social media to inform your friends.
Chris, isn't it amazing how someone at the very, very top can reach someone that is at the very, very bottom through social media?
I think it is amazing. I think it's phenomenal. At the end of the day, a president, a senator, a wealthy businessman, or or an average minimum wage worker can talk to anybody anywhere. You can direct message someone and follow. You can talk to celebrities, and we've all heard of stories where people have talked to politicians or celebrities and have come to proms or different events. So I think it's phenomenal.
I talk to all my fans. I respond to everybody.
I think that's great.
I really do.
You
I
do?
enjoy it. I love listening to them. And they have something important to say if you just take a moment to listen, and Twitter facilitates that.
Absolutely. Our next tweet is up. When often only thinking of voting during presidential elections, why is it important to be aware of the civic process of at all times?
Well, because so much happens in those midterms.
Right.
My God. There are, like you said, politicians who take advantage of the low voter turnout during midterms. And so if you really want to be effective, you are engaged at all times. Because if you don't, you get candidates, and nothing against the Tea Party, but you get these extreme Tea Party candidates who get in and affect policy that you have to live with for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And so it is important to be engaged at all times, but it's hard. It's hard to keep millennials' attention. So if I'll take them being engaged during this presidential election and use the data from their turnout to really determine how to strategically get them engaged on the long run.
Chris?
Yeah. Well, I think all politics is local. Again, let me rephrase that. The saying all politics is local. Sorry. I think it is important, and I'll say this for a few seconds. I saw something happen in my hometown. There was a situation a couple years back, and they've been through several different recalls, things like that. And a lot of people came up to me and said, "Hey, well, what's going on?" They would call me and say, "Hey, what's going on with this, or what's going on with that issue? Why is it this way?" I would say, well, you need to go to the city council meeting and make a difference. I said, because right now, they said, there's new projects being built and we want jobs, and I don't understand why they're trying to take it away. I said, they're not trying to do anything at all. You're letting them take it away because you're not being involved in the process. And so I think sometimes we let the minority be the majority, so to speak. And in this case, the city where I grew up in, there's a small group of folks who may want to, have a large control over the city. And that's not young people. And I think the young people have to step up, and that's not a presidential cycle. They have to step up and really be engaged in the process on a constant basis. That's how they can make real effective change.
So everyone has an equal right and an equal vote, and that's why we need to get the millennials involved. What would you think, or what do you think, Mr. Ben-Zvi?
We all know it's important, and we all keep on saying it's important to get involved, it's important to get involved. But the millennials want to understand, right, will I make a difference and how I make a difference? And sometimes we make it more complicated than what it is. You can register to vote, and it's really easy today to just go out and vote, right? And so if people just start voting, make a difference, right? If 5 million, 10 million millennials engage in the process in this election, it will be a big change. And if that group, any politician gets elected and says, we got millions of millennials who actually made a difference here, believe me, there'll be policies, there'll be somebody listening to that constituency, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody individually, you register to vote, vote. You know what? It's not a life decision. If you think you voted for somebody, they don't turn out to be exactly what you thought it is, guess what? You get the chance to do it again.
That's right.
And so you'll get it right. Or eventually enough people, enough politicians will understand that it's all about leadership anymore and not just being politicians.
Exactly.
Because we got to a point, like I said before, there's some people that their entire life was spent in politics.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Our next tweet is, why is a socialist like Bernie Sanders so popular? Socialism has failed all over the world, right?
I just want to be clear that, do we have only 3 minutes left before I get on Bernie Sanders? Do I only have 3 minutes for Bernie?
We have a little bit more time.
Oh, I had to check before I go into this. You know, I'm entertained by Bernie Sanders. I'm entertained by this idea that we can have this utopic living and everybody can be free and, you know, free in the sense without any accountability. And so that message appeals to people who don't want to be constricted or restrained. And in some cases, they don't want to face reality. And so I'm very intrigued that he is second in the polls, that he's been polling so high, that he's had such large crowds turn out for him and so many people enthusiastic. But that's the beauty of this country, that you have the freedom to support whatever candidate you want, to voice your support for that person and to turn out and vote for that person. That's the beauty of America. That's why Bernie Sanders is in the mix, because he's appealing to a broad base of people who want this kind of fantasy existence.
Chris?
I'm just going to I'm going to skip my answer for that.
Mr. Benzivi?
Well, you know, when we put these broad definitions, or broad labels, socialist, capitalist, these are way too broad.
But he self-identifies
He's a socialist,
why it's
and then
good
you ask somebody exactly what does it mean, right? So again, this be obscure clearly. There's policies, there's initiatives, and you know, I'm not a socialist in that sense, but a socialist in the sense of things like you said, there are some social, good wages, equality, right? Equal opportunity. A lot of those things are what somebody might call social concepts. They're not socialistic in the sense of the economic term, but there are big differences in what everybody's opinions are on a lot of things. But like you said, Omarosa, you get to choose, right? You get to choose. If you think socialism doesn't work, guess what? You don't vote.
Right.
But I tell you what, if you don't vote and only socialists show up to vote, guess what we're going to end up
That's right.
is with socialism.
Right.
So vote.
Exactly.
Make sure you don't vote for a socialist if you're not a
you know,
socialist.
after the debate, you saw very clearly that there was this drop in his numbers because, you know, I think that this little, you know, love affair with him is over. It's like, you can take my daughter to the prom, but honey, you can't marry her. That's what they're saying to Bernie. And you see that after the debate. So I'm a little relieved. I wonder when that's going to happen with Ben Carson because he scares me too. But anyway, next question.
And Chris, we're back to you. What do you think about Bernie Sanders and his popularity?
You know, I'll say this, Vote America, my job with Vote America is nonpartisan.
Oh, good for you. Take the high road. Let me get muddy and down in the dirty.
So I'm going to, but I will say this. I think young people are looking at candidates that appeal to them. And I think so if someone expects to be a leading presidential candidate to millennials, they have to appeal to millennials. I will certainly say that.
But isn't it funny when you think about there was this young governor from Arkansas playing his little saxophone back in '92, and nobody thought that he would become the next president of the United States. And here we are, you know, Bill Clinton became a really great president. So, you know, some people have these extreme views, but the American people always get it right.
I think
Do you know
so.
what I mean? I trust them, and they always get it right.
I think so. And that leads to our next question from our next Twitterer. How can millennials who are gaining employment through a high level of social media followers secure their financial futures? So I guess what this question is about like our YouTubers and our Twitter stars and our.
Well,
how
and
can they
Forbes
secure-
had that great list of the people who have the largest followings and how they're using it to make money. How sustainable is it? You know, I'm not really sure. It's hard to keep folks' attention, and you may be top today, and the next day there's somebody new. So I don't know that gives you the ability to sustain that kind of living for a very long time. But the good news is that there are new opportunities in social media. And I think that young people should take advantage of it. As much video games as my nephew plays, I think he should be paid to do that. I mean, if there's a job out there for playing video games, I want him to get it.
Mr. Benzivi?
You know, again, it's a great opportunity, entrepreneurship, right?
Right.
It's a tool.
That's right.
Somebody can find a way, right, to make a business out of it, so much the better. Gets to be a bigger business, it's probably going to create more jobs.
That's right.
And so,
Jobs.
jobs, right? Yeah. So that's, and all these other fantasies, whether it's socialism or other thing, where you can get a job. Everybody wants, I want a high-paying job. I don't want to get educated. I don't want to go to school. I want a high-paying job.
That's me.
Work as little as possible. Be on vacation most. Exactly.
So vacation, me.
Right. So there are no shortcuts. There are no magic pills. There's enough smart people around that have looked at all kinds of different ways. The American way so far has been the best way in the world. And we need to preserve it. And we don't need to get distracted by false premises, false hope.
I agree.
We need to just, and millennials are smart people,
That's right.
okay? Much smarter than the people actually sometimes making decisions. So if they participate, I think there'll be a huge change in this nation for the better.
That's true.
So, Chris, isn't, online stars and YouTubers, this is like building their online, it's kind of the new age entrepreneur.
Right.
This is kind of where it's leading. What are your thoughts on, you had talked about entrepreneurship
Sure,
earlier.
sure.
So this is kind of a new way of using that entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. I think anything that, at the end of the day, I think someone coming up with a concept and taking that and making revenue off of it is phenomenal. It's exceptional. To me, that's genius. And I think, just like Ido said, I think it's great. I'm a big entrepreneur person, and I think that entrepreneurship is so important. I think the more we can do for our country, not what our country can do for us. That's kind of my thought process. That's how I think. I think we need to figure out what we can do for America, what we can do for ourselves, and what we can do for other people.
Okay. Moving along, we have our next tweet. How are millennials, our next tweet?
We can talk about jobs again.
Well, we can talk about how to, I'm sorry, here we go, our next tweet. Everyone promises economic growth, but how will we obtain it? How do you go about turning our country around?
I want to hear this political answer from Chris.
I'd like to hear Ido's response.
I want to hear this. I feel like I'm at one of those debates, and I'm in between like Jeb Bush and Bernie Sanders right now.
Whoa.
Why don't we start
Oh
with you
my
on
God!
Please don't.
This is
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Bernie,
I just
oh my-
feel the burn. I feel it happening right now.
Why don't you take the lead?
Well, we all love you, and we tell look, again, talking straight, like things really are. So, who is the person? I guess we don't have
It says everyone promises economic growth, but how will we obtain it? How do we go about turning the
So,
country around?
can I give you like a 3-minute sort of
3 minutes?
3 minutes. Yeah,
This is the end of
it's
the
going to be about
show.
half as
You
much.
got 30
I will talk.
seconds.
I will talk
3
about-
minutes?
3 minutes will be about half as much
This
as
is
you
Charter
spoke.
Cable.
You already took my 3 minutes, so now I got another 3 minutes. That's
Go
like the
ahead,
debate.
Mr. Benzivi, go
Okay.
ahead.
I don't know how to stress it enough or explain it in a way that it actually connects. But education, right? The only way we create any value in the world today is by adding value to ideas. And where is the difference? The reason people don't get it is because over the last 10,000 years, literally, of agrarian and industrial revolution, the way we created wealth or jobs or economic prosperity or quality of life was by adding value to natural resources. So we were a wealthy nation here because in America we had gold in California, oil in Texas, timber in Washington, right, coal in Ohio. We were natural resource wealthy, and we created a great quality of life. But over the last 20 years, it's changed after 10,000 years of being the same. And the way it's changed is the way we create wealth, which means a good quality of life, equal opportunity, and so forth, is by adding value to ideas, right? What does that mean, right? Like high tech, right? Somebody comes up with a transistor, they make a radio, they make a TV, they make a computer, they write software, we get iPhones and so forth. And if you look at even personal wealth, not just national wealth, who got wealthy in the 10th of the century? You open the newspaper, it was Rockefeller with oil, Weyerhaeuser with timber, Carnegie with steel. Today you open the paper and you hear another person making $1 billion, right? They didn't find, it's not another guy found an oil field in Oklahoma or some more timber in Washington or Oregon, but it's people like Twitter and Facebook, right? And Apple. People are adding value to ideas. Consequently, both national wealth as personal wealth comes from adding value to ideas. Consequently, the most valuable natural resource an area possesses is its people, because that's who add value to ideas. And that's education. So more than any other time in history, the way we create wealth, quality of life, employment, jobs, everything we talked about, is by adding value to ideas, no longer adding value to natural resources. Therefore, education has become the natural resource. So the way to do it is to make sure we focus on the right education opportunities, not burden students who want to learn and contribute to society with so much debt that all they do is work the rest of their life to pay off the debt. It defeats the purpose, right? So if we focus on education, make sure we understand that the world has changed. And a lot of those, like you said, the non-millennials, last generation, they understood that the way you create wealth, a better quality of life creates jobs, is by adding value to natural resources. It has changed. And so we need to make sure that people who are in a position to implement policy, to put understand that and create that platform, that opportunity for America. And that's literally creating the right education infrastructure for people to be able to partake in it. And that's going to build our economy, our jobs, and everything else we talk about.
Okay, Omarosa.
I love Ido, but I did not believe he was going to take the full 3 minutes.
And it was so profound. Well said.
Well, thank you.
And well done. Okay, and I'm going to do this in 30 seconds. There are 5 issues that are important to turning this country around. 1, we have to secure the homeland. We have people who are trying to destroy and attack this country on a day-to-day basis. We need a leader who's going to be strong and secure this country. Number 2, immigration is a top priority for voters. Who is going to secure the borders and make sure that the people who are trying to come in illegally are accountable? Number 2, Social Security. You know, most of us up here, we're talking to millennials, but listen, Social Security is a big issue for a large segment of our aging group, yes, and so we have to make sure we take care of them. And number 4, we talk about this, but gun control in this country, every time I cut on the television, there is somebody shooting up a college or hurting young people. We've got to get that under control. And then if I can take up the last 10 seconds of my 30-second pitch for turning around this country, we have to remember that American workers make up the fabric of this great country. Taking care of them, addressing their needs, that is how you turn around this great nation called the United States of America.
Thank you, Omarosa.
Am I
Chris?
elected?
Your president.
Yes!
Chris?
Well, I'll save time for a couple of more truths. I think Omarosa and Ido have great perspectives and great thoughts. So, phenomenal.
Okay, well, we've actually come to the end of our panel discussion. Before we close, we just would like to thank Charter. They've been wonderful. But we'd also like to give our panelists a little bit of a closing remark. So we're going to start with Mr. Benzivi. If you can go ahead, and what would you like to leave our millennials with? A closing thought.
It's a simple, get involved. Your vote counts, and every level. It's simple to do. Look into it. It's really easy. You get to do it every so often. It's not a daily thing you have to worry about. Get involved, do it. You'll see. You'll make a huge difference.
Omarosa?
Is this my camera? This is a better angle for me. Right. First of all, follow me on Twitter. I'm at Omarosa, O-M-A-R-O-S-A. Hey. Number 2, you have a great opportunity to be really the swing vote in this election, but you have to get involved. You have to let your voice be heard. If you do that, millennials, you have the power of your own future in your own hand. You don't have to depend on candidates or politicians to determine where you're going to go and set your agenda. You, right now, today, this hour, can be the change that you want to see in this nation.
Outstanding.
Chris, thank you so much for setting this
Oh, no
up. I'm
problem.
going to give you some more time to go
you're
ahead
so
and
kind. I got a little more time.
Like, we're going to leave that.
First, I want to say this. I want to certainly thank Ido for taking the time to come out here. Personally, he's a phenomenal guy. Been a great mentor to me, and I think it's phenomenal. So this is a prime example of business meeting millennials and making a difference. So thank you, Ido, for taking the time.
It's a pleasure.
And I'm
Come
Rosa.
on, give it to me. I want you to lay it on thick.
Amrosa is a phenomenal good friend of mine, and I'm fortunate that she's been able to have a great perspective and engage. I think it takes people like Amrosa and other entertainers to make a real difference. This is how conversations start, and this is how we get things done. And I would just say to, this is my camera, to all my fellow millennials, thank you for watching, first off. And it's been phenomenal. I hope we can definitely make a real difference, and it starts by making things happen. If we don't get involved in the process, nothing will change. It's all about making a real difference and changing your life. I know CNN may be boring, Fox News may be boring, not to me, but maybe to you guys. But like Lexus said, hop on social media. You can learn a lot. You can go on our site, voteamericanow.com, and well, you're on it right now. You know, and you can definitely learn a lot of information. And I certainly want to thank Charter Communications and a special. These guys are phenomenal for believing in us and for giving us the opportunity to even make this happen. It takes a lot for an organization. I wish we can actually turn the cameras around and thank everybody. I mean, there's been so many folks who've been so helpful in this process. Bird, Anthony, Dale Hines. I mean, it's just Carmen, a great team, Aziz, and you know, it's just been phenomenal, Brenda. And I really want to humbly say to anybody out there, if there's something that you want to do, the best thing I can say is just go ahead and do it. I think Ido said something like that earlier. It's about making something happen. You can't. Ido said you cannot win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. I was fortunate to buy a ticket, so to speak, and then they took a chance and believed. So this is how we can make a difference, and this is how we can continue to make a difference. And I will say, please don't just watch the presidential election. Get involved in the community and make it happen.
Well, that concludes our first Vote America Now Twitter Town Hall. I would like to thank Charter Communications for their support and Vote America Now, and all our reviewers sending in great questions. Special thanks to our panelists, Mr. Benzivi, Omarosa, and of course Chris Perdome. And most of all, thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed our program as much as we did.